Incredible style Disney and Pixar logos. And more than just coloring, the shadows have a very noir feel to them, complete with the double I logo in the Disney castle. And some spy detective thriller opening titles, cutting back and forth between simple white on black title cards and the cold open.
I asked her out to a movie.
Ha! Actually, he didn't. She asked him out. But of course a teenage boy isn't gonna admit that, for some reason. But just so you know they didn't rewrite the scene, she does mouth the same exact line. Ha! The tone from the ending of the first movie has totally changed now that we're seeing the same thing happen from a non-super's perspective.
One of you patrol the perimeter, keep the crowds back and safe. The other watch after Jack.
I can feel the most cynical amongst us rolling their eyes, because didn't we literally just spend 2 hours getting this family to all treat each other like equals? Yes and no. Violet and Dash are still Helen's kids, so even though she knows they're capable, evidenced by giving them actual important jobs like watching the baby and perimeter, she's not about to throw them to the wolves if she doesn't have to. They're not on the island anymore.
Consider yourself under my...
John Ratzenberger turned a cameo into a part. So is Elastigirl a better Spidey than Spidey? We'll come back to that later. For now, the animators pointed out Brad Bird's attention to weight and how you can tell that when Elastigirl lands, you feel it. She's not completely invulnerable like Spidey can often feel. Frozone to the rescue! So obviously coming back to the ending of the first movie was a good plan. Kids would just not forgive you if they never found out what happened. But it stands as a great reintroduction to these characters, establishes their unique powers, even ties them all together around the main conflict, letting us know they're not nerfing everyone after the first movie. We really did pick up where the first left off. Such a fun reveal of Invisible Violet. Saving the innocent. Holy yup!
Follow Frozone!
Even his first moment on screen, he sounds like an opportunistic villain. Nice red herring, Bird. Details. Clearly a fallen superhero being honored here. Either didn't listen to Edna, or was one of the reasons Edna has the no cape rule.
Bob! Help me with the boiler!
Teamwork!
Get out of here! There's no time!
Oh man, this hits me right in the parent button. Last time, Helen tried so hard to get Violet to put a force field around the plane, and this time Violet just springs to action knowing she can save her family. It's early for these feels, Bird.
Program's been shut down.
I'm not the first to say that animators are basically actors, but man, have we come a long way. The subtlety in Helen's response to that news. Just slight facial movements can now convey the gamut of emotion. Little continuity win, Dash is still wearing his shirt from the race at the end of the first movie, since it's still the same day.
Wanna fight bad guys?
And speaking of the animators and the different artists involved in this movie, you know my feelings on background details, like how Jack lights up when Dash gets excited, or how Bob can't hold on to the broccoli, the greasy Chinese food lid, Helen's flared nostrils when she gets irritated. Every second of this film is a goldmine of attention and care. Much like the first film, the lighting this time around is absolutely magnificent. The blue glow from the pool cooling Bob's face as the neon warms Helen's, all while the water refracts light. Just what a scene!
Where are you going?
The fresh air is especially good tonight.
Subtlety.
I love superheroes!
So at this point in the film, I imagine you were all rolling your eyes, because could Dever have "I'm the bad guy" written any bolder across his head? He summoned the heroes to his multi-million-dollar high-rise lair, making sure to have a grand entrance after he allowed them to ride the elevator above the clouds, all while being voiced by the slimiest lawyer Heisenberg could wrangle.
My tardy sister, Evelyn.
Wait, her name is Evelyn? Evelyn Dever? Evil Endeavor? I gotta say, you give me this house and I might be able to get into that mid-century modern thing Julia's all about. You hear Dash jump in and he comes back soaked. Yeah, no, seriously, retractable floor plates hiding a pool, a widescreen tube TV, and a little eat-in booth next to the fireplace?
We will both be great.
Bye, sweetie.
Domestic life mixed with electric motorcycles will always make me chuckle. And they nail the action side of this movie again with just a simple but exhilarating ride through the forest.
You don't ask any hard questions.
Accurate.
It's a superhero's playground.
Playground, right. Strange thing to be excited about, Winston.
Still really leaning into what Winston's true motivations could be. He just likes superheroes, man. Why can't it be that simple? It just usually never is. Retro futuristic tech. You know, we know what this tech looks like. We have it now. But it's still the 60s version of it with some accurate modifications. Originally, you couldn't have convinced people how ubiquitous touchscreens would be. Oh, that one little last attempt to stay awake.
We will control the horizontal.
Outer Limits.
Why would they change math? Math is math.
Today I learned Common Core wasn't the first time math was changed. It's clear to me now that math will never stay the same.
Closing! The point is, everyone.
This thing's really moving. 100 and climbing.
There's often an interesting statement about societies with superheroes. they're always a little cleaner, a little more technologically advanced. It makes sense when funds can go to stuff like infrastructure and new ventures when you don't need to spend any money on crime, even in a society where the superheroes are doing the work in the shadows. And this aesthetic again, the color palette that is so heavily impacted by light, always using the sun to create these stunning highlights and shadows and light rays. Dang it, this movie is beautiful. Just a little fender bender like that to remind you she's not perfect and really ground this chase in reality. Oh, yep, that's like body resourcefulness. Holy crap, I did not expect this amount of inventiveness around a simple bike train chase. She doesn't move 10 feet without doing something awesome. I mean, come on! There isn't a moment where Elastigirl isn't utilizing her unique powers. No one could have done this job, at least the way she does it, and even she's flying by the seat of her pants. Legitimately unnerving. My old favorite animation effect, reflection in eyes. Must be the 60s again. Last time Jack Jack was in a forward-facing infant car seat, and now this. It's goody so OP. And now this movie lets us know why we're really here. We all know whose movie this is. Even raccoons recognize a super when they find one. Even if most of the Jack Jack clones are serious about pig piling, there's always one that's just there to have a good time. But now also feels like a good time to mention how every one of Jack Jack's powers kind of encompasses what it feels like to be a parent of a baby sometimes. Sometimes there's dozens of them. Try picking him up when he doesn't want to be picked up. Tantrums, escapes, and even the laser beam straight to your heart when your baby looks at you. You're welcome, you sappy CinemaWins fans.
Who can multiply like rabbits and go right through any...
The slow realization that two powers seem strange.
How was Violet's date?
All fine and good.
Honesty. He's back. Okay, I thought this was a stretch, but Brad Bird confirmed it on his Twitter. Big Wide Bob, Wafer Thin, Violet, Dash, and the ball of a baby are all together while Stretchy is not with them. Or somebody sucks at Lost.
I'm telling you, honey, it was a saga.
That's fantastic, honey.
I'm not even gonna look, but if there isn't one article titled Bob Parr has a problem with strong women, or The Incredibles 2 Not So Secret Misogyny, I'll be surprised. And I get how you could infer that on surface level. But this has nothing to do with Bob not actually being happy for Helen. He wants to be out superheroing. He doesn't have a problem with her doing it. In fact, I think everything he says is true.
First night. I am so proud of you.
This is his best attempt at shoving his own feelings down, even though he really is happy for his wife. Ha! I worked a soul-crushing job and all I got was this Insuricare branded mug. Just so you don't think Bob is the worst dad ever not letting his kids sleep, it is morning. The sun's coming up, so he just got him up a little early.
You are Elastigirl. This is why now I'm shaking your hand.
It's fun to see Helen be honored by somebody in a position of power. My goodness, it's Dorothy Valens.
That may soon be changing, due
Man,
to a...
you can even see his eyes reading the teleprompter. Attention to detail. Ooh, solid use of a dolly zoom. Very Vertigo this time, I might add, to make you feel like you'd be hypnotized if you stared too long. I can't say it enough. Brad Bird has figured out animated action like no other. He solved it. Others need not apply. The way he and his camera DP Meyer Abusadi use the camera, always moving, changing perspectives, getting that perfect, quick action angle while never sacrificing geography or continuity. It's astonishing.
When it comes to decision making, people have more trust in a monkey throwing darts than Congress.
Still true over 50 years later. That'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Also, I feel like this little girl sincerely thinks she's being supportive. I mean, her mom probably made the sign for her. Man, I'm gonna keep giving wins to the things that trick us into thinking Winston's the bad guy, but for those keen-eyed fans, you'd notice how often Evelyn is in the shadows while Winston is in the light. Awesome power, but mostly awesome because I'm absolutely using a Portal soundbite again later.
Selling is more important because the best sellers have the most buyers.
This conversation started about the powerful men in their lives, but evolved into passing the Bechdel test. But actually the movie does a couple times anyway.
What do you know about Tony?
Not much.
Not much coming from no such agency man doesn't inspire confidence. Wait, am I referencing Enemy of the State or Mercury Rising? Well, I guess I'll just have to watch both and also Sneakers. Make it a 90s spy night. Eh?
Normally she doesn't ever drip like this.
Dripping.
Find a good place to be angry?
Bob still thinks he was doing a good thing, but it would be the little brother that gets it and got it right from go.
While she postpones her defeat, you eat chips and watch her confront problems that you are too.
The whole Billy Crudup's Dr. Manhattan thing Screenslaver's voice has going is really working here. Again, Elastigirl is a character who uses her abilities in ever-increasingly ingenious ways. This is also her movie in a lot of ways.
Every meaningful experience must be packaged and delivered to you to watch at a distance. Ever ravenous consumers.
Whoa. Just because I like the MCU and Netflix doesn't mean I don't have my own experience. Oh, he's talking to an alternate reality 1960s cartoon society. Whoops, that's creepy.
Find anything?
And Screenslaver is actually terrifying for a kid's movie. His voice, his movements, I think he rides the line, but this entire scene of Helen sneaking around when we know he's in there is pretty tense. Also, of course, Evelyn, the tech genius, would know the exact tools to incapacitate Elastigirl. Beats Planet Truck.
I'm just the genius behind the genius.
Ha, because she actually is the genius behind what everyone thinks is Screenslaver.
I eat thunder and crap lightning.
So that's the guy Mick was talking about. Bob is kind of a rocky type.
He's a baby. I can handle it.
So the fun thing about this whole failing Mr. Mom bit is that Bob, after a little learning curve, actually starts nailing it and doing totally fine. It's Jack Jack's powers that change everything. So they got to have their sexist cake and eat it too.
Done properly, parenting is a heroic act.
And if that isn't the real message with the Mr. Mom shtick, for Bob to realize that Helen is a superhero without her powers. I know my wife is. I get to be with Jude once a week right now, and I just have all kinds of respect for all you parents out there. Anyone can push a heavy thing. Can you convince a toddler he'll survive sleeping the night without his rain boots on? Seriously, I can't. How do you convince a toddler he doesn't need his rain boots? Well, I just plain love Jack Jack morphing into Edna. What's really great and totally in character is how put off by Jack Jack she is until she realizes he has powers, and then he's her new favorite.
Of course you can leave the baby overnight.
I want you to have this. A memento.
Well, now they're pulling out all the stops convincing you Winston is Screenslaver, which is probably confirming that he's not.
You're not good. You're super.
Really thought she was going to say incredible. But seeing a dad admit his faults to his daughter and his daughter accept him is super sweet and gets me in the parent button again. Oh, Jack Jack's morphing skills go beyond just physical changes. And clearly Jack Jack's a wife win. I mean, he has been from the beginning, but, you know, babbling password for the win.
The flame retardant is blackberry lavender, darling.
Here's your, decade reminder that Edna is voiced by our director Brad Bird and is easily one of the best things to come out of this series. Comparisons are probably coincidental, but this is the best fade into an altered state since Black Suit Spider-Man.
Why would you count on me? Because I built you a bike? We don't know each other.
Moral is, don't trust strangers, kids, even if they give you high-tech devices. Ha! An iPhone.
The Devers sent us to take
you. Isn't that redundant?
Frozone announces himself with snow. What? Lava vomit? Nope.
Speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out.
Told ya.
Loudly! Say your name!
Man, that was some quick thinking from Frozone. Knowing something weird was going on, that the kids needed an unbiased, incorruptible protector. Like the car. Jack Jack's mask is all crooked.
So simple, even he can do it.
Ha! Well, there's confirmation that the whole Mr. Mom thing was a riff on the idiot dad cliche. I want to know what the deal is with these two. Some kind of magnetic polarity powers? This is like the essence of why these films are so great. I'm intrigued by background noise. Hey, at least the ambassador gave a little confused glance. Sometimes you don't even get that much. Gotta give Crusher some credit here. The cliche is to crush from one side to the other, essentially chasing your victims. But he crushed both ends in order to trap them. That's a cliche dodge. Of course, it only really works if you have a giant baby. You might think Jack Jack's little pat is unrealistic, but Jude's constantly patting me.
Mom, the suit. Try this.
Yeah, duh, Edna's suit is superior. Ooh, that's some ingenuity. Really, after Jack Jack, Void is my favorite super. She uses her powers better than anyone else. Elastigirl is a close second.
Laser eyes!
I love that the Laura Dern Pew Pew is necessary to make Jack Jack fire his lasers.
Where's the Crusher guy?
Obviously Dash noticed, but you keen-eyed viewers would also be expecting him if you were paying attention when Evelyn left the control room. Alright, maybe I gave her a little too much credit. But for a second, let's talk about Brad's genius just one more time. When Void was being mind-controlled, she was calm, precise, had to be outsmarted to be beat. But if you remember back to her first meeting with Elastigirl, she was nervous and fumbled all over herself. Because Elastigirl is her hero. I know what that's like. So now that she's herself again, she feels like she needs to prove herself and is messing up royally. Not that creating a portal over a moving object would be easy, but still. She does eventually figure it out, which is some solid teamwork.
My shields are probably better protection than the ship.
There's your arc for Violet, realizing that protection is a valuable skill and an important part of the team. And that's why we all leveled up Aerith.
Save yourself, make a ship!
Dude, this is one of the craziest multi-climax endings ever. But that one takes the cake. Elastigirl risking her own life to save Evelyn and then Void turning the portal perpendicular to the ground so she has time to slow down. Teamwork. Frozone is the man, saving hundreds of people with snow.
I have a good feeling about all of you.
And no feelings were harmed in the making of this movie. Oh my gosh, Jack Jack is copying Winston. Gosh, I love Jack Jack. I bet you thought I was gonna ignore all the A113s. Well, there's 5, so you can't.
Let us out!
And just a little subversion from the first movie. And another 2D recreation of the movie's events for the credits. And Michael Giacchino is always a win. The Underminer lives. As with most original film ideas brought to glorious fruition, you can never capture that first time again. It's just not possible. But coming back to this world and seeing the sunset still bathing everything in pink and yellow, hearing that familiar 60s Incredibles spy theme music, and once again being immersed into the family dynamic that's just like the rest of us, but super. It's all done exceptionally well. It won't be everyone's favorite. The story is very broad strokes similar to the first one. The structure of the opening bugged me a little, and our villain was by no means game-changing, though she had her break from the norm moments.
Oh, let him talk.
Superheroes have forcibly taken the bridge!
Finally, a villain who doesn't actively work against themselves. But the one thing I just can't handle is anyone accusing this movie of being a cash grab. It's just not. The mere number of silly details in this video should be testament enough to convince you of that. Cash grabs aren't about nailing the subtlety of Jack Jack's facial expressions and mannerisms in the background of every scene he's in. You don't create separate character models for different states of being just to line your pockets. Nor do you come up with new and inventive ways to use the same old powers we've seen a million times because you don't care about your craft. Look at the fabric on Bob's arms. Watch Elastigirl's imperfect movements and corrections on her elasticycle. Read Tony's dossier that's on screen for a second or two. This is not a grab for cash. This is a labor of love. You might have noticed I left out one crucial aspect in the list of details. You might also have noticed that I specified the DP of camera was Meyer Abusadi. That's because there was another cinematographer who was the DP of lighting, Eric Schmidt. Let that sink in. Bird essentially created 2 jobs out of 1 because, well, look at it. Let's just say it shows. I praised the lighting in the first, but it's on a whole other level in this film. There isn't one scene that isn't lit exquisitely. Different temperature lights, various amounts of contrast, a hazy nighttime cityscape for Elastigirl to glide through, warm desk lamps highlighting different parts of her face, setting the tone and just all around being like candy for your eyeballs. I can't even with this movie. A movie that's a sequel to a movie that was created at basically the dawn of the superhero craze. We had Spider-Man movies, we had Blade, but the MCU wouldn't even start for another 4 years. That movie was a meta-analysis of superheroes, and here we are 14 years later, and we get a meta-commentary on our own current culture and society through the lens of a 1960s alternate reality superhero film. That was a mouthful. Screenslaver's motivation could have been cleaned up a little. She goes hard on screens as the bad guy, which they are. That's right, literally every person watching this right now. But then that turns out to be mostly a misdirect. But at the end of the day, the supers prove her wrong, and Brad Bird swears this isn't Randian. While we're talking about Screenslaver, I saw a complaint come up a few times about Evelyn's plan I wanted to address. Why bother getting the supers to this point with the document signed? They were already illegal. The reason is simple. Her goal was to make supers illegal forever. You have a much more compelling argument when the supers actively plotted together to become legal to then immediately turn on the normies. They'd never have such a grand stage to express their motivations as the signing. And people are much more likely to be pissed off when they feel like the rug has been pulled out from underneath them versus just having their bias confirmed. It stands to reason that this should have been worrisome for normies in general if supers can be taken over so easily, but let's not worry about that. This movie is still a family story. A couple learning to appreciate each other in new ways, a daughter beginning to understand how much her parents care for her and realizing how important her role is. And Dash. Well, Dash is fast, see. Also, I love Jack Jack. Next week, another long-awaited request. There are scenes in it that I still have no idea what to do about.
It's not unknown for supers to have more than one power when young, but this little one has many. Yes, you have many powers?